Okay, so this horse has only gone 4 weeks and a couple days, but she gets a lot of good nutrition. So this time of year she's growing a lot. So I'm gonna take the wall first, because that's definitely what's longest. Lots of overgrown wall. These are not my usual nippers that I trim with on the day-to-day. These are an old pair that I trim with when I do horses at the house or do my own horses. So I'm kind of like following the peripheral edge of the sole. Her feet, she kind of toes out a little bit, so the medial wall will get longer. She doesn't actually wear it off, but her way of traveling makes that happen. And part of that is just because she has a narrower chest. So a lot of horses with narrow chests will have front hooves that toe out, turn out a little bit. So I gotta make sure I get this medial heel back where I want it to be so it's balanced with the lateral heel. A tiny bit more, and like really that'll make her toe out a little bit more, but that's her conformation, so I don't want to try to fix it. I think she's almost 6, this horse, so it is what it is, and I have to trim her to her own personal conformation. I'm going to take these bars down because they migrated a bit around the apex of the frog. And she's shedding a little bit of sole because it got really wet here a couple days ago, which is awesome. We needed it. And on her hoof, the frog looks really good. There's not really loose flaps hanging off. So I'm just gonna take this little tiny piece back here. But other than that, that foot looks pretty good. Maybe start my bevel a little bit. And then finish this foot a bit more from the top. Got a new rasp, so I'm pushing a little bit too hard because I'm not used to it, so it's kind of scraping across the hoof instead of gliding. And as I get used to it, I'll stop doing that. So when people are learning too, actually the best rasp to learn on is a dull one initially, because it will just glide across the hoof. I'm gonna smooth out this wall and balance this hoof a little bit from the top. Remove any flaring that's on the lateral side from the top instead of the ground surface, to kind of bring that foot in instead of shortening it. That's pretty good. Looks pretty smooth. Feels pretty good. That one's done. So this front hoof a few months ago had an abscess that you can sort of see right here where the hoof wall kind of broke off and cracked, and that area of the wall is hollow. It's not connected anymore after the abscess there, so once it starts to grow out, sometimes a big chunk will break off. And she's perfectly sound and she's fine. It's just ugly. It looks more of a cosmetic problem than a functional problem. Just thought I'd point that out. Pick this foot out. So again, her frog's in pretty good shape. Make sure I get as much of the dirt out as I possibly can. Just build my tools. So you can see this is that area where the abscess broke out, and the new wall growing in is actually well connected. But the rest of the wall got so long that the weakest area broke off. So I'm gonna do a big nip of this wall and bring her back into balance. Because right now the medial side of this hoof is really long in comparison to the lateral side. And like I said on the other front foot, this is only 4 weeks worth of growth. This time of year is so crazy. Part of the reason why I haven't been making as many videos is this time of year I do double the work I do in the winter. So there's just not much time to do anything else when I do hoof care full time. Okay, so now that I've kind of rasped that wall down and balanced everything, that toe's still pretty long. So I'm going to do a vertical nip to remove some of that extra length and bring the breakover back a bit. Okay, just check my bar height. Hold on, baby girl. Make sure there's no high spots. Her sole's shedding a little bit like the other front foot was, but she has nice deep soles with decent concavity, so she doesn't retain much sole to protect the bottom of her foot. Okay, just beveling that a little bit to get the shape I want on the bottom. And I'm gonna finish the rest of this hoof from the top. Frog's in pretty good shape, so I'm gonna leave it alone. I'm just gonna bevel this hoof from the top, especially where this old abscess was. Gonna put a nice strong bevel on it so it doesn't break off or trip or chip or crack. Kind of make it smooth and kind of float that area a tiny bit. Still pushing a little too hard. Whoops. Nice bevel. That all looks pretty good. So that hoof is done. Now I'm going to trim her hind feet. First thing, as always, I'm going to get all the mud out of there. So a little bit cleaner area to work in. One thing that can kind of be difficult is if, I mean, I don't want to jinx it right now because I don't want her to pull her foot away, but if the horse is pulling their foot away a lot, every time they set it down in the dirt, it fills back with mud again. You have to clean it out and start all over, and that can be kind of tedious. Okay, so like the front's a lot of wall to remove, but she has really healthy feet, lots of good growth, no hoof wall separation. So I'm basically just removing excess growth and rebalancing her hooves where it's needed. The hinds usually stay really balanced, but you can see as she got, hold on baby, as she got long on this lateral side, long on the medial side. I'm just gonna let her have it for a second. I don't know if she has like a fly or standing on a rock or something, but she gave a lick and a chew, so apparently she liked that I gave it back to her. So let me see. Let me readjust the camera. I'm not happy with the one. She doesn't like the one that she's standing on. See how when I put this one down, she picked the other one up? I'm not sure why. So what I actually might do before I finish this hind that I've been working on is I might move to that other one and kind of look at it and trim it a little bit in case there's like a rock in there or an abscess or something that's making her uncomfortable, because she's pretty good at communicating with me when she has a problem. Like, she normally just doesn't pull her feet away. So I think I'm going to do that first, and then I'll finish this other hoof after I do the left hind. See what's going on with this one. Oh, maybe she's just stiff, or maybe she's upset that my other horse is over here. I'm not sure. We'll find out. So far, I don't see anything that would warrant a reaction. I guess the other thing that it could be is that I haven't done anything with her for 10 weeks. That could play a role. All she's had is maintenance and getting fed because it's been so hot and I've been so busy. My horses have been neglected a little bit. Not neglected, just no time for training, I guess. All their basic needs have been taken care of. Just not anything extra. So removing all that excess wall, I mean, that could be enough to cause discomfort because she's kind of enjoying standing on that other foot. This hind hoof has a lot more. Hold on. Hold on. Okay. Alibi, you're gonna have to move. Bobby, no. Okay, we're gonna start again. I moved other horses around. I don't know if she was annoyed by the dog, the horse, or if she says, hey, we haven't done any work in a while, and I would just prefer not to have my feet trimmed right now. That's a perfectly possible explanation. Okay, and we'll just work through the behavior the best we can. A little bit of that. Just want to shave some of that stuff that's coming off of there. So I'm going to take a little bit of this toe as a vertical nip from the bottom, and then I'm going to finish that angle I've created from the top. But otherwise, that looks pretty good. That's pretty functional. Barefoot hind hoof. It looks pretty nice. So let's bring it forward, and then I'll finish up the right hind that I only did halfway. Just finish this bevel. Hoof looks pretty nice. One thing to notice, even though it's fly stomping season, you know, when there's lots of flies and the horses are getting annoyed by them and they're stomping their feet to get them off their legs. So sometimes I'll find bruising in the hoof wall, especially when you look at a horse that has light colored hooves. It's much more noticeable on them, but as you can see with this hoof, there really isn't any bruising. Not from kicking anything, not from stomping. So that's kind of nice to see. Okay, that hoof is done. And this hoof, back over on the right hind, this hoof used to give me problems when this horse was a foal. Oh, so are we going back to that? We might just be reverting back to different behaviors that haven't surfaced in a long time, because I haven't been doing anything with her. Take that bar down. Hope everything is still in there. It moved a little bit. So I basically just need to finish beveling this one from the bottom, and then I'll do the rest from the top. Make sure her heels are balanced, but her hinds are almost always balanced. So I don't usually have to do much more than remove some excess material. So I'm just gonna finish this bevel from the top and make sure I really smooth this side where she broke off on the lateral side, because she broke off a little bit high. So to prevent it from chipping off further and cracking, which can happen quite easily this time of year, especially when we have a lot of moisture like we've had the last week. It can turn into a crack really easily, and you can get some secondary like white line disease in there, which is basically a fungal infection that eats at the zona alba of the hoof wall, and it will create a big void akin to like what happens when a horse has an abscess, where the hoof wall is not connected underneath. So pretty important to smooth that stuff out to the best of our ability. Okay, otherwise that hoof is done. And then I wanted to show what this hoof looked like a bit after the trim. You can see where that abscess was right here. You can barely tell it was ever there because there was so much excess growth to remove that once it was removed, that whole area looks a lot more flush with the hoof wall. All right, finished product. All done.